Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 74 of the Developing Dads podcast. You're joined by myself, Neil, and Gordon, co-host. Or is he the host? Who knows? But in this episode, we're going to be chatting about having girls and the difference between girls and boys and the kids. If you're new to this podcast, I've got two boys and a girl who's 8, and Gordon's got 18-month-old girl.
21.
21-month-old. Wow. Yes, first birthday coming up soon. Second birthday coming up soon. Mad. Anyway, I hope you're all doing fine on this wonderful day. Like we always do on the podcast, we're going to ask how each other are. So, Gordon, it's been about a week since we last spoke. How you doing? What have you been up to?
I always give Neil quite a bit of grief for how unexcited his intros are when he does the intro. And I think I managed to achieve him actually being more excited, but at the same time, I don't know what just happened there.
I mean, it is the morning, which is quite rare for us to record a podcast in the morning. So maybe my energy levels are just a bit higher.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear it. I mean, you've probably been up since about 3:30 in the morning. You've probably run about 24 miles, had a swim in a lake somewhere, walked a dog. Tidied up poop and taking kids to school.
Yeah, the dog story. That's going to be a good one for the pod. Anyway.
The dogs. I mean, I haven't even heard the dog story, so I'm keen to begin the understanding of that at some point during this conversation, I guess. Anyway, how am I? I'm good. Again, just the usual up and down trials and tribulations of working for yourself. Not so much downs, but definitely more ups, which is kind of just how the roller coaster goes, right? You win some, you lose some, and it's just a case of like being, oh well, on to the next one, and that's kind of just how it is. So yeah, this week's been kind of good because I've been doing. There's a kind of a thing where people are like, how did you get these clients? Right? It's kind of part of what a service-based business is, I guess. And how did you get the clients? And sometimes the tactic is, hey, I sent out all these messages. I sent out all these emails to people trying to get them to sign up to my service or sign up to my thing and buy my stuff. And you're kind of like, well, what did you say? And they're like, well, I just told them what I offered and how much it was. It's like, right.
That's the first
That doesn't
mistake.
work very well. So what this week's been a lot about is I've basically been downloading a bunch of other people's content and then just re-editing it, making it better.
Yeah.
And then I'd just send them a message and be like, hey, I made this. I took your current content, made it better, and what do you think? I've got a bunch of packages. If you're interested, let's have a chat about it. And that inevitably runs into conversations, right? These are already people that probably know, like, and trust me. They're not like cold DM aspects of things. So there's at least that covered, right? There's some level of trust that's going on there. But it's still the case of you can literally take their thing and make it better. They're going to buy from you. That's an offer that someone can't refuse.
Yeah.
So that's been quite good. I've been doing a bit of that this week, trying to work on the business, trying to develop this whole agency thing a little bit more and getting that sort of built out. What else have I been doing this week? Time blocking again. I think did we talk about that in the last pod? Yeah.
You've been to the gym?
Have
you gone for a run?
Have I been to the gym or gone to the drop? No. No, I haven't.
Great start.
I've been drinking and eating. That's what I've been doing. I had took back Monday bank holiday off, went to a Fulham game, which was good. A really good game, actually. It was 5-3 Fulham, which is nice. And then I went to there's a Fulham football club podcast, like a third party one. It's not an official Fulham podcast, called Fulhamish, which is it's just set up by young guys, like in their, mid to late 20s, maybe early 30s. And they just talk about the game and Fulham, the football club. And, it's actually quite amazing how much of a community that Fulham is. Like, it's a big football club. And it's just kind of really interesting how there's communities all over the world, and a podcast has allowed them to have conversations. And the hosts have gone on to do things for the BBC, for Sky Sports, for big sort of television broadcast stuff, because they'll comment on games and, talk about stuff, basically. And it was just kind of really, first of all, it's really good. I think they're well produced. I think it's really funny. I think it's really interesting, which is, ultimately the reason why it's probably been pretty successful. But also just the fact that they have gone from probably just an idea like we have, we'll just do this thing like called a podcast and talk about it. Because that's what it is. That fundamentally, at the core of what they're doing, they're just doing it because I reckon it was a couple of mates who thought, let's talk about Fulham, do a podcast and see what happens. And then now we went to, after the game, they had a live show. I think it was like 10 quid or something to get in. And they recorded a podcast live there and then on stage, one host and then three other sort of mates talking about the game, and then sort of Fulham as a whole, 3-parter sort of thing. And it was kind of like, this is really cool.
Yeah.
This is a really cool thing to see, that clearly it's come from just an idea and a bit of fun to now it's kind of like, it's even more fun.
How many people were in the audience?
Oh, it was full.
150?
I probably would have said about 50 odd, maybe a bit more. So it's kind of like, think of it like a small pub band kind of gig area. And so they basically just had sold all the tickets. So it was maybe like 50 to 80 people, I'd have thought, somewhere in that region.
Nice.
And it was just great. It was just so inspirational to see that, I think people just forget that this kind of thing can be achieved by just starting
something. Yeah. And the evolution of podcasting is interesting, because we've both been listening to podcasts for years and years, and there's never really been a time where you can go and see a live podcast until like last year and this year. It's really kind of taken off, where you're now getting Steve Bartlett's and the Andrew Hubermans and Tim Ferriss's are all doing live stuff, which I think is really cool. And it's kind of, can I imagine us on stage in 5 years' time? I don't know.
But it's not so much that, I think, because the live stage thing is just because it's a show, right?
Yeah.
It's no different to a talk show on TV or whatever else, true. Right? It's just that it has the guise of being a podcast. And it's interesting you say that. I haven't been listening to podcasts that long. It's maybe been a year or two.
All right.
2 years, maybe 2 or 3 years of actually listening to podcasts, because I couldn't get into them. Like, I couldn't get into the someone talking in my head and there's no music or anything. Like, I couldn't understand it. And then I started to sort of listen to really good ones, and I was like, this is a pretty cool thing. I like it. It's very easy to tap into some interesting people that I would have never met before. And equally, they're not famous. Like, they're not people that have gone on to do Hollywood movies or whatever else, and they're just talking about how gorgeous they are. They're actually like, I was listening to Stephen Bartlett had the Shopify president on.
I listened to that one.
And I was listening to a bit of it, and it's just you get to hear from these people. Like, the president of Shopify is never going to go on the Late Show or Parkinson or what. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's never going to do that. So I just find it really great that you could sit down and listen to this kind of thing. So that was cool. We did that on the Monday. And then the rest of the week's kind of been a mixture of meetings and a bit of editing, and then I had a spontaneous thing yesterday where, was it yesterday? Or maybe the day before, where I messaged an old friend of mine who I hadn't spoken to in a couple of 2 or 3 years, I think. And just finding out what he's been up to and how things been going. And then, I'd kind of just forgotten what I'd been doing for the past 3 years. And it's kind of interesting to, because he hates social media. He doesn't like scrolling through social media. So he's never going to see any of the things that I'm up to.
Is this Mr. Famous Ryan Bonner?
No, not Ryan Bonner. God, I'll never hear from him until I'm about 60, and he's decided that he's going to move to London and he needs a shed. This was Steve Bradley, actually.
Oh,
so he doesn't. He's known as the fitness guy. So if you want to go and check him out on Instagram, he's there. But he doesn't use social media, I guess. So he wouldn't have known what I was doing. So that was kind of fun, actually, to have a conversation with someone who didn't know who's kind of already in the know of what you've been up to, and was kind of asking questions because they know, rather than the kind of inquisitive, uncovering nature of what it used to be, where you'd be like, hey, what you been up to for the past 3 years? Well, a few things. And then I set up a podcast for someone yesterday. So it's a long story short, but basically, I think I've talked about this gym that Laura's been going to, right? The T2 Fit thing.
Yeah.
And she loves it. And I basically set up a bit of a deal with them where I was like, look, I've got some skills. You've got a product. Let's exchange. right? So I get the product for free, and he gets my skills for the price of the product. I guess.
Nice. So you're getting gym membership, or Laura is.
Yeah, so it's a gym membership thing. So it's for Laura. But I spend an hour every couple of weeks. I'll go and have a conversation with them about how they're doing with their YouTube, their social media, their sort of production pipeline strategy, their hiring and editing and whatever they're doing. And then one of them was the launch of a podcast. So it's kind of always interesting when you meet someone who doesn't know what a podcast or how to set up a podcast or the intricacies of it all, and you kind of think, yeah, it's easy, but it's not. Like, there's fucking tons of stuff you got to do to make sure it all works.
To make it high grade. I mean, I've seen people using like their iPhone earbud things, just like a microphone by their mouth and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm all about that life. That's not a bad place to start. But if you want to take, because it's for a business, it's for his business to be able to like promote and be a bit more community aware and all that kind of thing. So it was kind of like, it's got to be good, right? It's not just going to be like a little project. So it was kind of like here's the cameras, and to be fair, like I've got him set up across the board, like a 3-camera setup with SM7B microphones, like fancy microphones. Got them all set up for, I think it was just over $2,000.
Nice.
So and it looks really, really good. And
has he got a room in his studio thing, in his gym?
No, so they're going to be doing it in the gym, not while people are there, because it's a small group personal training thing. It's not like a membership gym. So they're just going to do it in between sort of when there's no classes or anything going on, and they can just do it in the gym, and it'll look great. It'll look great, sound great, everything will be about it will be great. So yeah, helped them set it up, and it was just kind of fun to, just pass on the whole thing, right? You know, all the stuff that I've learned, and they were like, "Oh, where did you learn it from?" I'm like, "Well, basically YouTube, and then making mistakes."
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. And then like reminiscing with Steve just about how I got that job with Ali, and then we were talking about all that because he didn't really know much about that, a little bit but not much. Talking him through all that, and he was kind of like, "I can't believe you managed to convince someone to pay you that much based on the fact that you learned the skill, the thing that you were getting paid for
on YouTube.
On YouTube. You didn't go to uni, you didn't go and do a special degree, you didn't do corporate or anything. You just made stuff on the internet, and then someone paid you handsomely to do it for them."
Yeah.
So yeah, he was like, "That's pretty nuts." What about you? What have you been doing?
I mean, that's a in-depth review of your week, Gordon. I don't know if I can top that. I guess I'm feeling okay. All 3 kids, and Rebecca and I have colds, so it's just like restless sleep. So the kids are coughing and yada yada yada, just the usual from nurseries and stuff, which is annoying. But this week it's been pretty chilled. But the biggest kind of highlight last week was a long weekend. On the Friday, I'll tell you. I'll start the whole story about the dog. So on the Wednesday evening, or Thursday morning, we got a text from a close friend of ours, saying that a friend of theirs' granddad has died. He had a dog. Would we be interested? And we've always kind of talked about getting a dog, and the puppy stage has scared us because, I don't know, the puppy stage is like going back to the newborn stage, which I just don't think I can do. You still see me?
Yeah.
Weird. It's gone funny.
You're right, Neil. We've not paused. Weirdly, actually, on a very weird side tangent, Riverside seems to be behaving itself a little better.
It does, but that went a bit weird. I went really crackly or something.
All right. Well,
anyway,
you're fine, mate.
I'm back. So yeah, we got a text, and this golden lab, 4 years old. No, not 4 years old. 7 years old, became available. So we went to see it on the Friday morning, and we didn't expect to take it home that day. But the kind of people that were dealing with the granddad's death were like, "Yeah, we don't really we don't want this dog. You're very, very welcome to have it now, or you can kind of take it home for a trial and see how the kids are adapted, and if I'm allergic and stuff." So we agreed to have like a 3-day weekend trial, and we're just going to say to the kids that, look, we're looking after it for somebody. It's not our dog. Let's see how we get on. And I wasn't allergic. Got really attached to him. His name's Cooper. And he just fitted in right as soon as he got home. He fitted in really well, and he's now ours. So I've got a family of 6 that I'm supporting. It's just pretty mad.
Yeah.
I can see Gordon's face is like, what's going on? But I don't know.
Like, let's be honest. There's some stage in my life we're going to get a dog, right? It's going to happen, and your kids can they take a shit on their own?
Yeah, and wipe their bums and make breakfast and lunch.
Right. Right. So what you've just done is you just kind of cleared up. Your kids have got to the point where they've cleared up a bunch of shit on your schedule.
Yeah.
So now you've just filled it with a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's why, like, it's just. I think we get to a point where we've got the kid thing. And we have the responsibility of work and all the other stuff that goes along with it, right? So you got all that responsibility. And you kind of get used to that responsibility, although it's hard, which it is, no doubt about it. It's just that you're used to having all that responsibility now.
Yeah.
So I think that, I don't think you're ill-capable. It's just that kind of feeling where you're like, whoa, that's another thing to add to the plate.
Yeah, but then when you look at it and break it down, he's an ex-gun dog. So he's super obedient. Like, I've taken him on a 5K run and he stayed right by my side. He's not interested in other dogs, really. He comes back when he's called. He sits. Like, he's like Danny. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember how obedient he was? He always stayed beside us. So he's a phenomenal dog, obviously house trained. So there's none of that rubbish. And he's very calm. So like in the house when the kids are going wild, he'll just sit in his bed, head down, sleeping. So like there's like we've got my in-laws have got a dog who's 3 years old. She's still hyper as anything. Can't really take her out without a lead. She barks a lot. I've never heard him bark yet. We've had him a week. So yeah, he's just a really, really good dog. I don't think I'd be saying this. I don't think we would have kept him if he was a whiny kind of, I don't know. We wouldn't have kept him if he was a hard maintenance dog, but this one seems really good. So yeah, loving it so far.
Nailed it. Nailed it, Neil.
When we told the kids, I had tears in our eyes. So that kind of made it all worth it. Like, I always wanted a dog. She asked me twice a day for years, when we get a dog. And when we told her on the Saturday that we're going to keep him forever, she just kind of welled up and went quiet.
Oh, really?
So that was
Nice.
that was really nice. And it's something that makes it worth it, and it gives them a responsibility. So like now they know. And Isla's been on every walk we've taken him, whether that's 6:30 in the morning when we wake up to 7:00 at night. And I know, like, it's like the honeymoon period. It's like, it's all exciting. We've got a dog, so we'll see how long it lasts. But yeah, it's just really kind of come into her own and got a responsibility now. Needs to feed him, needs to comb him, brush him, and make sure he's happy. So yeah,
sounds
feels
great,
nice.
mate.
Feels nice. But I didn't really like the whole flipping thing of like vet insurance and food, and like you get raw diets for dogs now, and you get it's a minefield of like, what should you feed them? So we're navigating that. Which
you took all the responsibility, Neil. Like,
I'm not complaining. I'm just sharing that if you get a dog, be prepared for like the mammoth amount of insurance stuff and options you can add on and things you can pay for, and the different kind of food stuff and subscriptions, and yeah,
it's an industry.
It's fun.
It's like getting married.
Yeah.
Anything else you've been up to?
Not really.
Oh.
Been pretty.
Have you said that, remember the last time we had a conversation, you said you were going to sign up to an ultra marathon. I'm keen to hear which one you've done, Neil.
Yeah, let's move on from that, Gordon.
Oh, what a load of bollocks.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that's bollocks. You said you'd do it.
I was like, I think I had COVID a few weeks ago and I didn't go to London. I was meant to go to London and I almost collapsed at the airport. Now I've got this rubbish cold thing, which just feeling sorry for myself. So
why is that stopping you doing an ultramarathon?
Well, it's stopping me getting the motivation to sign up for it.
Why?
Like I'm doing 5Ks here and there, but I can't be arsed doing anything more because I'm just feeling a bit blah.
All right, that doesn't mean you can't do an ultramarathon in September.
Anyway.
Right, every time I'm coming on the podcast, until you've signed up to it, Neil, it's going to happen.
Do it.
I'm going to make you feel uncomfortable, and you're going to get upset with me, but it's going to happen because it's you got to get it done.
Yeah, and this might be a cliffhanger for people, but I've got a task to do this weekend. Me and a friend who's a carpet fitter, James, who you'll meet when we're watching Simon Sinek and Steve Bartlett live. We're going up to Skye to fit some flooring in my in-laws' house. And I volunteered to take my car and all the flooring in the car, all the tools, and the suspect, like you should see, it's like I'm low riding. Anyway, I'm fearing my life that we don't get to Skye or the car breaks or something. So, yeah, tune in for the next episode number 75, and see if I made it to Skye and we fitted the flooring. Because
why haven't you just hired a van?
Well, James has got a van, like a massive van, but I volunteered. The van's not that comfy. It's not. It's probably like 5 miles to the gallon.
I don't know, but the van's gonna get there, and your entire family will maintain family wagon.
But then on the flip side, you Google on the Picasso website, you Google like the max load weight of the car, including fuel and passengers and stuff, and it's like 800 kilograms. So we're sitting about 700. So there's still space. But it's looking.
That doesn't mean you take it to the max.
And I've got like extra load tires, and they're all pumped up there.
I'm sure your house can cope with most of your electrical appliances on full blast, but you don't just stick them all on to see what can happen, do you?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm leaving this afternoon, so that'll be a fun adventure for the weekend, and you can stay tuned for episode 75 to see if I make it.
See, I pray for you. Where's my phone? Oh, there it is. I was going to take a nice picture of us. Anyway, yeah. So, being a girl dad, how do you find it, Neil?
Yeah, well, like I didn't really think about it at all until I had the boys, and just the stark difference in how the boys are compared to how Isla was, and it made me realize, like, I don't know how I learned this. I'm smiling for the camera. And yeah, I don't know. I think I was quite young because it stuck in my head from when I was like, I don't know, 16, 17. I watched this documentary on Channel 4 where they're talking about like, you're not born a specific sex and you kind of become that when you get older and stuff like that. But I think that's bullshit. Like as soon as the boys were, I don't know, 6 months old, instantly knew they were a bit more rowdy. They were a bit more kind of, maybe not 6, maybe 12 months. They were just a bit hitty and a bit like boisterous, like as a key word, boisterous, because Isla's gentle, she's loving, she's caring, she can be loud and she can be fiery, but there's a stark difference. So, but I didn't realize that until I had the boys at the same time. But yeah.
Yeah, there's you know, I don't have boys. I've only got Olivia as a girl, obviously. But with like, we got some friends that have got boys, and I remember at the weekend. So at the weekend, let me bring this back a little bit. So there's that me and Olivia will play, and we'll play together, and there's definitely a need for me to sort of rein in my strength and my kind of like, I don't know what to call it, but it's something where it's like, oh yeah, it'd be cool to do like choke slams on the bed,
yeah,
right,
yeah,
or to like flip them upside down and kind of just do that kind of, I don't know what it is, I'm not sure, but there is definitely a need for me to kind of just rein that in and be much more aware of Olivia's sensitivity or her needs or what she wants, because I do find myself like taking it to a point where she's like, no. Whereas when I've had boys over that are not too dissimilar age, maybe a few months older or a few months younger, like there's almost no boundary. Like it's just they're gonna want to get thrown up in the air, like put on your back, like tipped upside down, hung up on their feet, like running around, all sorts of like kind of weird and wonderful things. And the only difference in them is really their gender.
Yeah,
one's a boy and one's a girl. And I don't find myself limiting what I'm doing when I'm playing with the boys, because their feedback is always more. Like, do it again. Let's do it again. Do it again. Whereas Olivia, there's always kind of like in the back of my mind, because of experience, not just because of like she's a girl, but just from experience, where I feel like I have to hold back, or I have to like kind of, I have to watch at what point I'm either taking it a bit too far that she doesn't feel very happy about it, because she's told me before about certain things that I've gone like, oh, this would be fun, but actually it's not for her. So
Yeah.
maybe it's personality, but I've generally found it that with friends that have got boys, there's almost no limit to basically what crazy shit they want to do. Versus Olivia is kind of like there's more of a still very much play, and there's still a physicality within the play, but it's not no holds barred. There's definitely a limit.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate that. And like as they grow up, I find that the boys have been a lot more hitty and I wouldn't say violent, but just like trying to be that kind of alpha. It's alpha male. I don't know, trying to have that kind of authority and control over situations over me more than Isla did. So there's that aspect of like, yeah, they just want.
Is there any point in it? Did you find that? So the boys are obviously using their voice and their fists, right, to dictate something. Have you ever found that Isla's ever taken the route more from a psychological perspective?
What do you mean? As in like
So,
mind games? As in
yes. So do the boys play mind games with you?
no, but I don't know if that's because an age thing. I need to think about that. I mean, Isla definitely like she started saying like, I'll only brush my teeth if you give me this, or I'll only do that if you give me this. It's like almost like how we like we'll say like if you don't stop misbehaving, there's going to be consequences. You're not going to get your iPad, or you're not going to get TV, whatever. She started using that on us, which is quite interesting. But yeah, it's probably But
it could be age.
Yeah, I think it could be age. I don't know if there's a correlation between boys and girls and more kind of. Yeah, there's definitely a physical aspect, but I don't know if Isla was using her mind more than her actions.
I think there's an important factor here. This is simply observational. Like we could be completely wrong about what we're saying, and there could be other influences that we don't understand or things that are going on. This is purely from the perspective of like being a bloke, you know, with a girl and trying to figure out, is there a difference? Is there not a difference? What are the things I've observed and felt? And yeah, like I said, I could be completely wrong, and
yeah,
I'll change my mind if someone wants to convince me.
I think a lot of dads will relate to this, because the dads I've spoken to and the dads I've got, both boys and girls, yeah, there's definitely similarities to how I've felt. And moving on to like the relationship I've got with the boys and Isla, both very close, both very loving, very caring on both sides. But there's definitely an element of Isla having I don't know, a bit more closeness and a bit more, it's like that daddy girl type, I don't know, vibe or feeling. Like I'm going to Skye this weekend. The boys are like, okay, see you on Sunday. Isla's like gutted and wants me to stay, wants to come, all that kind of stuff. And it's like every London trip, every work trip I do, Isla's the same, and she always wants me to take her to things, and we've got a very, very close bond. And I don't know if that's just my circumstance and how it's happened in our household, but I feel that the girl gravitates to the father. I don't know about what you've got to think of. Well, you can't really compare it to anything.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. I think we're at different stages. Like Isla's obviously quite maybe 6 years older or so than Olivia, so that's quite a lot of time. Like it's basically the 300% of Olivia's development. So that's kind of hard. Yeah, I can't really compare for that just now. I think I'm still in a bit of a phase of Laura being chieftain and comforter. I think that still remains. But I think what the things that, and I'm accepting of that. Like, that's not easy. It's not, to be perfectly honest, it's not easy that Olivia, gravitates largely towards Laura nearly most of the time. But it's just part and parcel of, I think, the parenting thing, and it will change at some point. If we have another baby, I'm sure I'll take the reins in pretty much a lot of the stuff. But equally, when it comes to like us doing things, I'm like very sort of hardcore onto the idea of, right, we're going to go and play football, or we're going to go swimming together. And do sort of lots of activities.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I don't think I have that quite yet, but there's probably a bit of a difference between the boys are like, yeah, I'll see you later, Dad, bye, and then I think
I wonder if it is that thing of like second child, because Isla's obviously our first kid, and I was probably there more for her than Rebecca was when the boys were younger. So we developed that bond, and it might be similar to you and Olivia when you guys have your second one. You'll be kind of the main parent for Olivia for a period of time, and that might strengthen the bond and make
that's true. It's kind of like one of those. It's one of those things where it could have gone both ways. Like if Isla was a boy, then would have it made a difference? I don't know. Maybe. I do find that at that age, even from looking at friends that have got kids or whatever else, then Isla's probably greeting you at the door with a tea set, asking you if you'd like milk with your 2 sugars. Whereas boys at that age are still trying to run into a wall, thinking it'll fall down.
Yeah. Oh, you're right.
But yeah, to like the thing about the one thing that I have tried to be very conscious of is that that I don't think I fall into some level of like the idea that there are gender stereotypes and that culture and society is basically carving our personalities. But so I don't reject it wholly, because things like maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, to see girls playing football, which was kind of like wouldn't have really happened because it just wasn't really encouraged, right? That variety of play wasn't necessarily encouraged. It was kind of like, oh, girls go to ballet school and boys go and play football, or they go and play rugby. And I think I'm very passionate about the idea of rejecting that wholly and entirely. And I'm very keen that if Olivia wants to play with a doll, she can play with a doll. If Olivia wants to play with a kitchen, she can play with a kitchen. If Olivia wants to play football, she can play football. If she wants to play rugby, she can play rugby. If she wants to go swimming, she can go swimming. If she wants to play any sport that someone thinks is just male dominated or whatever else, I couldn't give a shit. Like even the gym is something that I think I really want her to understand, that she can be very strong and powerful and physical if she wants to be. Like she can be that person. It doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl. So I think that's one thing that I feel very passionate about, I think, because we've got our little football thing that we go to, and regardless of whether or not she's a boy or a girl, I couldn't care less. It's like
it's
she loves kicking a ball around.
I've definitely followed the same suit where they I want to give them as many experiences as possible, and they've all done a variety of different classes and groups and stuff. But one thing I couldn't, like, Isla went to ballet when she was 3 to 4. I think she did it for maybe 12 to 18 months. I couldn't imagine taking my boys to ballet.
It's a shame.
And I know it's a shame, but I guess I'm being honest. And I guess because my experience of that class was it was all girls for like 18 months. There was no boys.
Yeah, I can see. I can definitely see and understand how you feel. Like, even you just saying it, I'm thinking, would I take my son to ballet?
Which is,
I think, and I also don't want to be. I also don't want to be like forceful, right? I don't want to, because it comes from both pressures, right? It comes from one where you're like, this weird thing about, oh, take my son to ballet. That's, because that's coming from judgment from other people, right? It's a societal judgment. That's what it is. Beyond that, it's nothing. But equally, I don't want to feel pressure that I should do that because that's the new thing to do. You know what I mean? I'm like,
the 2023 thing.
Because it's the same. It's the same thing with Olivia. Her grandmother bought her, or great grandmother, sorry, bought her a doll, which is very kind of her, and she's gravitated towards that little doll, that baby, like nothing on earth. It's like she basically it's attached to her, and there's no force. Like if she doesn't have the doll, I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
It's absolutely and utterly and entirely her choice. So it's kind of the same thing as where the football thing, she loved kicking football around the garden. That's like she's absolutely obsessed with doing it. And I was like, well, simple, football.
Yeah.
But I guess if she was like dancing a lot and moving around a lot in the house, I'd be like, oh, she'd probably be into like dancing.
Yeah.
So I guess I'd probably take, thinking on my feet a little bit, I kind of take the approach that if the boys were really into sort of dancing around the garden or listening to music and things, then I'd definitely take them to a dance class Would it be
Yeah.
ballet? I don't know, because it's quite specific, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely dance classes which has boys and girls, which Isla's been to as well, like hip hop dancing and stuff. But another one, just as you were speaking, I had a moment. This is maybe a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago, where Ben saw Isla getting her nails painted. These like nice glittery pink nails, and he was absolutely desperate to have his nails painted. And I thought, like, oh, what do I do here? Like, should I support it? Should I carry on? Is it going to start something? Is Ben now going to want his nails painted every single day when he goes to nursery? That time, like, I think it kind of fizzled out, and we didn't end up painting his nails. I think he maybe forgot about it or something. But it was not a no from me. It was definitely a hesitation of like, oh, is that okay? Is that something I want to encourage? As like pink sparkly nails.
Are you? Is that because he get picked on?
No, I just think, yeah, I don't know, not picked on, but I just think I just know. I guess we've always been brought up like girls should paint their nails, boys shouldn't. So I don't
know if we've been brought up like that.
Well, I think brought up, I guess there's two meanings. Is like, have our parents distilled it, or has the media and the social stuff? And I think that the media and the social things.
Yeah, there's definitely an influence on that. But to me, it's kind of like, well, he's 3 years old.
What's the worst that can happen? Yeah.
Literally, what's the problem?
Yeah.
You know, I think we're kind of going off on tangents, like they've been a girl dad, but I guess it's kind of like the whole, you know, how do we react in a world in which there are no genders, or if there is genders, there's about 4,000 of them, and how do we then navigate that with still maintaining some level of like whatever the traditional model is, or the common held model of a male and female is, and yeah, I still think, and I do think that maybe because I have a girl, I'm more generous with that idea that she can do whatever she wants, how she wants, whenever she wants, within the confines of morality and ethics, I guess. Whereas a boy and as a man as we are, there's still that kind of like that feeling where you're like, I understand all this, and if he paints his nails and goes to school, he's going to get bullied.
Yeah, which will make him sad and depressed and anxiety and all those things. So yeah, and it goes even deeper. Like, should you let your boy, when going into school, I don't know, or nursery and stuff, wear dresses? Like, that's a whole can of worms. I don't know if we want to delve into that.
That's not. but it is. It's kind of, it is a bit odd, that feeling, because you want the best, and you there's some levels of like worries, and I don't know if my worries being a girl dad are the same as if I was a boy dad, because I think I can very quickly understand what it's like to be a boy. I can understand what it's like to be a boy teenager. I can understand what it's like to be a boy young man. I can then also understand what it's like to be a man, because I've gone through all, right? You have that level of empathy and understanding of that whole process from end to end. I was talking to Laura with it, where she felt the same. If she had a girl, she's going to understand all of the girl processes that you go through, you know, not just from whatever cultural pressures there might be, but internal pressures, but also just the physical changes that happen that ultimately you progress through, that she'll understand. And I don't, and I won't. You know, I can read whatever biology books I like, but I will not understand what it feels like to go through puberty as a girl.
Yeah.
And all of the things that come with it. And I have to try and understand, and I will. But that still doesn't make me like, oh, fuck, how do I deal with this? You know, when, for example, like she has a boyfriend, comes home. What the hell do I do with that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, is it an age thing? Again, I don't know, but I definitely feel more protective over Isla. In terms of that whole kind of boy scene, and I don't know, I feel like, and this is wrong, and this is how kind of society has brought us up, I guess, but I feel like the boys can hold their own a bit easier. And what?
I'm not saying what's happening now, but the door's open, and I'm like, I've got a microphone on.
I can't hear it. Anyway, yeah, like, I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, so I feel like the boys can kind of hold their own a little bit better than Isla can, and yeah, whether that's right or wrong, it's probably towards the wrong side. But I feel
it's because of that. I think it's because of that physical aspect, right? Like the boys are going to get to a point where they're going to be stronger than Isla.
yeah,
Like
and that's just
regardless,
nature.
I don't care. I don't care how many times Isla goes to the gym and eats her protein and trains. The boys are basically going to go through a period of natural steroids between the ages of about 13 and 18, 19, and they're going to get jacked and big and strong. And again, I go into that level of empathy and like just plain understanding that as a boy, you have that capability.
Yeah.
Like I think there's a general thing that as men, as boys, you're capable of violence.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's where that threat that we walk around and understand, either subconsciously or consciously, it then creates a level of confidence, I guess, and sort of
heated moments.
Confidence in your capabilities, but also then the realization that someone else is also probably confident in that realization.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm not sure that girls feel the same. I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. But I don't know. Like I think I knew when I was stronger than you, even when we were teenagers. I knew when I was at a point that I was stronger than Dad.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And
whereas I don't think girls think like that. I don't think they go, I know I'm stronger than my mum.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting, like when eventually the boys get girlfriends, Isla gets a boyfriend, or the other way around. Who knows? But just having that, I don't know, having the worries of that. I guess, do I worry about it day to day? No, but it comes into my head sometimes of like, what does the future look like? I'm probably more concerned with Isla than I am with the boys.
I think there's also the fact that if the boys have girlfriends and they get them pregnant, then the responsibility of the newborn baby is not necessarily going to fall into your home.
Yeah,
which is entirely wrong. I don't feel like that's a good or bad model. I think it's not right that that's the way it happens, but perhaps it might. And if Isla gets pregnant, a teenage pregnancy or whatever else, then it falls on your home and your shoulders and your financial burden and all those emotional burdens and everything comes with it. So I guess there's also that, right? Is that kind of that fear when you have a daughter, if she, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know how to look at that, but has a life-changing thing like having a baby very, very early on, then there's a lot that you have to do.
There's a lot to unpack, for sure.
A lot. And then there's like, I think there's just an odd protection thing. And I don't know why I perhaps I feel like that, but there's definitely like I might feel differently when I have a boy. I have absolutely no idea, but I don't know if you've ever felt it where you basically would be like, right, boys, off you go, kick him out the door, go and just don't get run over by a car. All right, see you later. Whereas, would I feel a little bit different about doing the same for, like, would I act the same way for Olivia? Would I just be like, off you go, see you later, do your thing?
I feel like, and this is wrong again, but I feel like there's more dangers being a girl. There's more external things that can probably hurt or affect her than it can with boys. And as you say, it comes back. I guess maybe it's the media that portrayed it with, like, I don't know, the kind of serious stuff of abductions and all that kind of horrible stuff of girls and that kind of thing. You don't see it as much for boys. You definitely hear the stories of girls getting abducted and
but in some, like, I'm not saying you're right. What I'm perhaps saying is that you're suggesting that Isla could get hurt herself, like physically hurt, and that's terrible. But how many times you see in the news of kids stabbing other kids and killing them outside of, say, schools or shops or in the street somewhere? They're 15, they're 16, and they've killed some 14-year-old. It's very rarely girls, if ever. It's boys.
Yeah,
and to me, that there should be some equal level of fear that your boy gets tied up in something like that. Either on the dark side where they die and they get stabbed, but even on the other dark side where it's like they're going to go to jail for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And they've completely ruined their life. And that's terrifying. So think like I said before, I don't think you're not wrong. I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah, I've never thought of that side of the coin, really.
That's terrifying, right? They get tied up in something that they don't understand because their little brains, that's condescending. Their young brains don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the consequences that come from it. So I don't know. I don't know if, maybe I'm changing my mind about the protection thing. There's still that thing that sits in you and you're like, I want to protect my daughter more, and then just, shove my boy out the door and tell him to go and just not hurt himself. But the more I think about it, I'm like, the world is hard for whatever you identify as, right? It's a tough place.
Yeah, it is. But as you say, we've lived being a boy, a male, so we can relate to it. We can't relate to being a girl, and it scares us.
It is, and it's that understanding of like certainly the teenage feelings. I think that's something that I don't know. I don't know if I think we've kind of decided between the two of us. Like if you had the conversation where you're like, right, you're going to talk about sex and babies with the daughter, and I'm going to talk about sex and babies with the boy. But then to me, I don't know if that's right or wrong, because then you only get the perspective of perhaps the female voice within the house.
Yeah, I guess my take on that is the time will come where Isla asks us, or it starts like probing a little bit, and whoever she starts probing with, whether that's me or Rebecca, we should have that chat.
I think you both. I don't know if I feel like I would or wouldn't, but I think you both introduced your thoughts on feelings on how you. Yeah, because then I think if she gets a perspective from you about what all this means and what it potentially is, then you're the first male relationship that she's ever had, right?
Yeah.
First proper strong male relationship, and if you're able to then convey something that, like we said, because she'll understand girls better at her age than we will understand girls at her age, so it'll be the vice versa. She won't understand boys at her age like she understands girls, right? So equally, you being a boy, being a man, having gone through that, I think using your voice and your opinions and your thoughts and the way that you convey things, I think might be quite an interesting thing for her, because maybe that traditional thing of mum deals with girl problems and dad deals with boy problems.
Yeah.
It's maybe not the best route. It's maybe to have that variety, which is like the other things that I talked about with the football and Pally and whatever else.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, stay tuned for episode 5,642 when Isla's 18 or 16.
Oh God, are we going to keep doing the podcast till then?
I mean, it's getting hard to think of subjects, think of topics.
I guess it is kind of hard to talk about topics, but this one in particular I've quite enjoyed, because it's kind of made me think on my toes a little bit about the idea of raising a girl, of which I've not really thought too much about, because you get kind of caught up in the day-to-day struggles of just general life stuff. Yeah. But I don't know, even if we don't necessarily come up with like lots of different things to talk about, which you can run out. Like we had a good random dad chat last week.
Yeah. We'll just
like even like the first part of this episode was like 15 minutes of just chatting about our day and what we've been up to in our week. So
yeah,
even if it just turns into like a, the is it Ryan Holiday daily dad thing?
Yeah.
Have you listened to his podcast?
Yeah, some of it.
It's like 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty good, right? That's a nice thing to do, and he does it like a daily podcast, doesn't he?
Yeah, I don't know how he does Daily Stoic as well every day, 7 days a week. Like, I guess it's
not hard, Neil. Let's be honest.
and he's got a team behind him for the content and stuff.
He's got a team behind him, and he's also got like 366 days of book content. Yeah. So he just picks a chapter and talks about it.
I'm really enjoying the Daily Dad book. It is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Have you bought it?
Yeah, I've got it.
Oh yeah. Did you get the physical one, or did you get the Amazon one?
Amazon. I like to have it on my phone because it's just like a page fills the screen, and it's just like this one today. Actually, just to end the podcast on quite a nice note and quite an interesting thing. It was about, this is how bad my memory is. What matters more than results? And he talks about what matters more than your kids' grades in school is the priorities they pick up and the values they absorb. So that's the question. Are you teaching them the test scores matter, or that learning counts? Are you teaching them that success is winning arbitrary competitions, or that it is becoming the best version of yourself? Results don't matter, not the obvious ones anyway. What counts is the person your kids are shaping themselves into and the things you do along the way to help them.
Boom.
Very wholesome. And like, it just makes me think, like, I get worried a lot about Isla's school and how she's progressing against her class and her classmates and stuff. But I can see from doing her homework and stuff, she's learning, she's improving. Yeah. Just little things like that.
Did she enjoy what she's doing?
Yeah. And she's enthusiastic about homework. Like, she asks to do it. So
Yeah,
like,
but this is
that's massive.
That's it.
She's not
And
avoiding
that's
it. She's not, yeah.
And this is it. Like I didn't get bad grades at school, but I didn't get particularly amazing ones.
That was the same. Yeah.
I think we're both doing all right.
Anyway, yeah. On that
Do you know
note,
what I mean?
I'd recommend the Daily Dad book if anyone is up for some kind of. It's not even stoicism. It's just like random thoughts of Ryan Holiday, because he's a dad of 3, I think, 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Anyway, on that note, it's been a good podcast. A bit of a random one, because we only thought about this morning, the topic. But I think I enjoyed it anyway. I hope you did.
Well, The Rock inspired it actually, because his like Fish Purse podcast or whatever else was
Did you listen to
some of it, not all of it, some of it, but it was more the title. It was more the title of like being a girl dad, I think, was the inspiration from it.
Yeah.
I'm also curious about. I'm also always curious about these podcast sort of things that I don't know why it has to be so formal the way that they've filmed it.
Yeah, like I just see it on YouTube. It was very. I mean, it is The Rock, but I agree. Why is it not chilled?
He could easily have just done it like this, and to be honest, it probably would have been better. Because have you watched the Ed Sheeran documentary?
Yeah, on Disney.
Yeah, you watched it. Sensational.
Oh, yeah, I was waiting to actually bring it up. Absolutely, like, I mean, I was almost in tears in some parts, like the whole Jamal thing, and it was really filmed.
Nailed it.
Yeah, amazing.
Absolutely nailed it.
Yeah.
And although it was filmed like obviously quite like very professionally, and you kind of expect it to be like that, it just created such an interesting closeness. You know, you felt like you were kind of experiencing the things that he experienced, and it was just, I thought it was absolutely superb, like brilliant, very well done.
There is one thing we started watching on Netflix actually. It's about a couple who have their third date in another country and then get quarantined there because of COVID for 6 months, and it's this YouTuber that's basically filmed the whole thing from like getting on the plane with nobody in it because he's going on an adventure to somewhere, and then just filming the 6 months with this girl that he doesn't really know. That is amazing. Like, it's just so well done. He's only got 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. So like, he was just an amateur, but I'll send you a link to it. I can't remember what it's called, but it's really good. Look out.
Watch it tonight, maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, I hope everyone has enjoyed this episode. You can check us out on Instagram, which we seem to be getting some good interaction with our reels, which is nice to see.
What did I say, Neil?
Yeah.
I told you.
Yeah.
You start posting some stuff, it's going to work.
Check us out on Instagram, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Give us 5 stars. Yada, yada, yada. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your week. Till next time.
Cheers. Bye.